Good evening. You've arrived at a quiet space meant for rest. There is nothing you need to prepare for, and nothing you need to do. Tonight's recording is designed to remain gentle and predictable. It isn't meant to teach. It isn't meant to hold your attention. It's simply here to exist in the background, at a steady and unhurried pace. You don't need to listen closely. You don't need to understand every sentence, and you don't need to remember anything that's said. If your thoughts drift away, that's expected. If sleep arrives early, that's completely fine. Nothing in this recording depends on sequence or focus. The topic tonight involves memory and sleep, but only in the softest sense. Not as something to analyze, not as something to solve, just as a slow, natural process that continues whether or not it's being noticed. Everything you'll hear is based on well-established scientific understanding, not speculation, not theories meant to impress, just ideas that have been observed and described carefully over time. They'll be shared slowly, without urgency. There will be no sudden changes in tone or pace, no moments that require a response. Right now, your body is already doing what it needs to do. Breathing is happening on its own. The surface beneath you is supporting your weight without effort. There's no need to adjust your position unless your body naturally wants to. And there's no need to check whether you're relaxing correctly. This recording isn't here to guide you somewhere new. It's here to stay steady and familiar, allowing your attention to soften naturally. As the minutes pass, the voice will remain even and calm. Pauses may feel longer. Sentences may begin to blur together. That's part of the design. If at any point you notice the sound fading into the background, you can let that happen. If awareness drifts in and out, that's fine too. Nothing here is asking for effort. Nothing needs to be held onto. For now, all that matters is that you're here, resting. Listening if you want to, not listening if you don't. The science will unfold quietly in the background, slowly, evenly, just as the night continues on its own. As you continue resting, there's no need to change anything unless your body naturally wants to. If you're already comfortable, stillness can remain just as it is. If there's a small shift, it can happen without planning. Breathing is already moving at a pace that suits you. There's no need to slow it down. No need to deepen it. No need to guide it in any way. Each breath arrives on its own, and each breath leaves on its own. That pattern doesn't require attention. The muscles of the face may begin to soften, the area around the eyes, the jaw resting without being held in place, the tongue settling naturally in the mouth. There's nothing to release deliberately, nothing to relax on command. The nervous system doesn't need instructions in order to move toward rest. It responds best to consistency and quiet. The shoulders may feel heavier over time, not pulled downward, just supported. Gravity continues doing what it has always done, evenly, without urgency. Your arms are where they are. They don't need to be positioned carefully. They don't need to match each other. They're simply present, resting along with the rest of the body. If there's any remaining tension, it doesn't need to disappear. The body doesn't require total relaxation to rest. It only needs time and a sense of safety. Your chest rises and falls gently with each breath. The rhythm may shift slightly from moment to moment. That's normal. Breathing adjusts continuously without asking for permission. Lower in the body, The abdomen moves in a subtle way. There's no need to hold it in, no need to control it. It responds naturally to pressure and release. Your legs are supported by the surface beneath you. The weight of them is already being carried. There's nothing to keep upright, nothing to balance. The feet don't need attention. They don't need warmth or tingling or any particular sensation. They can remain quiet at the far end of the body, unremarkable, uninvolved. As these sensations stay steady, the brain begins to notice the lack of demand. There's no task waiting, no response required, no change expected. This is often when mental activity starts to slow, not because it's being pushed away, but because there's nothing pressing to react to. Thoughts may still appear, fragments of the day, images, unfinished phrases. They don't need to be followed. They don't need to be resolved. They can pass through awareness the same way sounds pass through a quiet room, present for a moment, then gone. If your attention drifts away from these words, that's completely fine. The body doesn't need continuous input. It responds just as well to consistency and tone. The voice you're hearing isn't here to guide you somewhere specific. It's here to remain steady, predictable, allowing your internal systems to settle at their own pace. There's nowhere else to be, nothing else to prepare for. The night doesn't require readiness. You can continue resting exactly as you are, breathing, supported, unchanged. The body already knows how to do this. As the body remains settled, attention often becomes less focused on individual sensations. There's no clear moment when this shift happens. It doesn't arrive with a signal. It unfolds gradually, without needing to be noticed. Awareness begins to feel more open, less directed, less concerned with any single point. This kind of transition is familiar in the natural world. Many processes don't change suddenly. They move through slow adjustments that are easy to overlook. Light fades across the evening without a clear boundary between day and night. Temperature shifts gently as hours pass. Sounds soften as activity decreases and distances feel larger. None of this requires coordination. None of it responds to observation. These changes continue whether or not anyone is paying attention. The body is accustomed to this rhythm. It developed within environments shaped by repetition and gradual variation, not constant alertness. Because of that, predictable patterns tend to feel safe. They don't demand quick responses. They don't suggest urgency. As attention widens, there's less need to focus on details. Sensations can remain present without being examined. The weight of the body stays supported. Breathing continues at its own pace. Nothing has shifted suddenly. In many systems studied by science, stability doesn't come from stillness. It comes from consistent motion. Once conditions are set, processes often continue along steady paths for long periods of time. Sometimes for years, sometimes for much longer. These paths don't require supervision. They don't need correction. They persist simply because the surrounding conditions remain unchanged. When such systems are described scientifically, the explanations are often simple at their core. The details can become complex, but the underlying ideas repeat. This repetition is part of what makes them easy to listen to. There's nothing hidden behind the description. No outcome waiting to appear. Just continuity. As this awareness settles, thinking can begin to feel less structured, less linear. Not because thoughts disappear entirely, but because they no longer need to organize themselves around tasks or decisions. Images may arise on their own. They don't need to be held in place. They don't need to form complete scenes. If they pass quickly, that's fine. If they linger briefly, that's fine too. There's no advantage in focusing on them. Time can begin to feel less defined. Minutes don't need to be counted. There's no sequence to follow. The voice continues at the same unhurried pace, not to guide attention, but to provide a steady reference point, something consistent enough that the mind doesn't need to stay alert. In this state, awareness doesn't narrow, it softens. There's no need to imagine anything specific, no need to anticipate what comes next. As awareness becomes more settled, it can begin to rest alongside ideas without needing to engage with them. Thoughts don't have to be followed, and concepts don't have to be held in place. They can exist quietly in the background. One of the ideas often discussed in science is memory. Not as a single thing, not as a fixed place, but as an ongoing process. Memory isn't stored in one location in the brain. It doesn't sit in a specific container, and it doesn't behave like a recording that can be played back exactly as it was. Instead, memory involves patterns of activity that are spread across many regions. These patterns change over time. They adjust as new experiences occur. What is remembered is influenced by context, by timing, by the state of the brain when the memory is formed. Because of this, memory is not static. It's not something that stays perfectly intact. It shifts, it softens, it reorganizes. This doesn't mean memory is unreliable in a harmful way. It means it is flexible. That flexibility allows the brain to adapt, to update, to adjust to new information without needing to hold on to every detail exactly as it was. From a scientific perspective, memory is less about preservation and more about continuity. It carries forward what is useful, and it allows other details to fade naturally. This process happens gradually, often without awareness. Most of the time, memory doesn't require effort. It isn't something that needs to be managed consciously. The brain handles it on its own, in the background, while attention moves elsewhere. During the day, experiences arrive continuously. Sensory information, thoughts, emotions. Not all of this information is treated equally. Some of it is reinforced. Some of it is allowed to pass without being retained. The brain doesn't make these decisions deliberately. There is no central control deciding what stays and what goes. Instead, memory reflects patterns of activity that have been repeated, reinforced, or connected to other processes. Over time, these patterns can strengthen, or they can become less distinct. Both outcomes are normal. From moment to moment, memory is not being edited. It's not being reviewed. It's simply being shaped by ongoing activity. This shaping doesn't stop when attention fades. It doesn't pause when awareness becomes less clear. It continues quietly, whether or not it's being noticed. That's why memory can feel different at different times, why details can feel sharper one day and softer another. The underlying process remains the same. It moves at its own pace, independent of intention. There's no need to track how memory works, no need to analyze it. For now, it's enough to recognize that memory is not something that needs to be held in place. It's already in motion, already adjusting. And just like many other slow processes in the body, it continues most smoothly when it isn't being observed too closely. The voice remains steady, the rhythm unchanged. Nothing here requires attention. The idea of memory can remain where it is, in the background, moving quietly on its own. As the idea of memory remains quietly in the background, attention can begin to rest alongside the broader state of sleep itself. Sleep is not a single condition. It isn't an on or off switch. From a scientific point of view, sleep involves gradual changes in how the brain organizes its activity. The brain does not shut down when sleep begins. It remains active, but in a different way. Some networks reduce their activity. Others become more coordinated. Overall, the pattern shifts from one suited for responding to the environment to one focused more inward. This shift doesn't happen all at once. It unfolds slowly, often without a clear moment when waking ends and sleep begins. During this time, the brain becomes less responsive to external input. Sounds may still be registered, sensations may still occur, but they no longer demand the same level of processing. This is part of why background sounds can continue without drawing attention. The brain notices them less precisely. They become part of the environment rather than something to react to. As sleep deepens, communication between certain regions of the brain changes. Information moves more slowly. Signals become more rhythmic. This rhythm is one of the defining features of sleep. It doesn't require effort. It emerges naturally as the brain settles into a stable state. From the outside, this process appears quiet. From within, it feels diffuse. Thoughts become less structured. Awareness softens. The brain is no longer focused on organizing experiences into immediate responses. Instead, it shifts toward maintaining internal balance. This balance is important, not because something special needs to happen each night, but because the brain relies on regular periods without demand. Just as muscles benefit from rest after activity, neural systems benefit from time without constant input. This resting state allows ongoing processes to continue without interference. There's no need to monitor this shift, no need to guide it. The brain has been moving through these states for as long as sleep has existed. It doesn't require conscious participation. Even when sleep is light, the change is present. Even when awareness drifts in and out, the process continues. This is why sleep doesn't need to be perfect to be useful. The brain does not wait for ideal conditions. It works with what is available. Quiet, reduced stimulation, time. These are enough. As external attention fades, internal activity becomes more prominent, but not in a way that requires awareness. Much of what the brain does during sleep is not experienced directly. It happens beneath the surface. Patterns repeat, signals cycle. Activity rises and falls in a slow, predictable way. This predictability is important for the nervous system. When change is gradual and expected, there is no need to stay alert. The brain can remain settled. For now, there is no need to think about specific stages or names. No need to label what is happening. It's enough to recognize that sleep is a state where activity continues, but without urgency, where the brain remains engaged, but not directed, where processes move forward quietly, without being asked to. The voice remains even, the pace unchanged, and the brain continues adjusting, gently, as sleep deepens on its own. As sleep continues, the brain remains active in quiet and organized ways. One of the processes often discussed in this state involves memory. Not as a deliberate action, and not as something that requires attention. Current scientific understanding suggests that during sleep, the brain continues working with information that has already been encountered. This does not happen all at once, and it does not follow a strict order. Instead, activity moves slowly across existing patterns. Some connections become slightly more stable, others become less distinct. This process is often described as consolidation, not because memories are being locked in place, but because they are being adjusted within a broader system. The brain is not deciding what should be remembered. It is not reviewing events. There is no internal checklist. What occurs is a gradual rebalancing of activity. Signals that were active during the day may be repeated. Others may quiet down. This repetition is not exact. It does not replay experiences moment by moment. It reflects patterns rather than details. From what scientists can observe, this process unfolds without awareness. It does not require intention, and it does not respond to effort. Trying to influence it directly does not make it work better. The brain handles this on its own. Time plays an important role here. Changes happen slowly, across minutes, across hours. There is no single moment when consolidation begins or ends. It blends into the overall rhythm of sleep. Some patterns strengthen simply because they were active more often. Others fade because they were less reinforced. Both outcomes are part of normal brain function. This balance allows the system to remain flexible, to make room for new experiences, without becoming overloaded. Importantly, this process does not require deep sleep to begin. It occurs across different sleep states, adjusting as conditions change. Even when sleep is light, the brain continues reorganizing in small ways. This is why sleep does not need to be perfect. The brain works with what it has. Quiet time, reduced demand, a stable environment. These are enough to allow gradual adjustment. From the outside, nothing dramatic appears to be happening. From the inside, activity continues quietly. The brain does not rush this process. There is no benefit to speed. Slow change allows stability. This is similar to many physical systems. When adjustments happen gradually, they require less energy and cause less disruption. The brain follows this same principle. As memory-related activity continues, there is no need to notice it, no need to track progress. Awareness can remain elsewhere, or it can fade entirely. The process does not depend on observation. If thoughts drift in and out, the brain continues. If sleep deepens, the brain continues. If sleep remains light for a time, the brain continues. Nothing needs to be done. There is no outcome to reach. The work unfolds quietly, shaped by repetition and time rather than effort. The voice remains steady, the pace unchanged. And as this slow rebalancing continues, there is no need to follow it any further. It belongs to the background now, already underway, already moving at the speed it requires. As this quiet rebalancing continues, there is no need to keep track of it. Nothing here depends on noticing changes. Nothing requires awareness. The brain continues working with what is already present, not adding, not sorting, just adjusting, slowly. Memory remains active, but not in a focused way. It does not ask for attention. It does not signal when something has shifted. The process is steady. Connections that have been used more often remain available. Others soften without effort. This happens naturally, without intention, without instruction. There is no benefit in monitoring it, and no advantage in trying to guide it. The brain has been doing this for as long as sleep has existed. It knows the pace. As external stimulation remains low, Internal activity stays rhythmic. Patterns repeat, then settle. Nothing is being decided. Nothing is being finalized. The system stays flexible. Memory does not need to be perfect. It does not need to hold every detail. Allowing some things to fade is part of how balance is maintained. As this continues, attention can remain loose. It does not need to return to the content of these words. The voice is only a steady presence. It is not leading anywhere. Words may begin to blend together. Pauses may feel longer. Meaning can soften. That is expected. The information being described does not change. It does not progress. The same ideas remain in place, returning gently without emphasis. Memory continues. Sleep continues. The brain remains active in the background without urgency. Nothing here is moving toward a conclusion. There is no signal that something important is about to happen. The repetition is intentional. When information stops changing, the nervous system no longer needs to stay alert. It can rest in consistency. The brain recognizes this pattern. It responds by reducing effort. Thoughts may still pass through awareness. They can do so without being followed. There is no need to engage with them. The process does not require clarity. It does not require understanding. It continues whether or not it is being noticed. As the night moves forward, the rhythm remains the same. Quiet, even, unchanged. The background activity of memory does not speed up or slow down. It follows its own steady pace. There is nothing to add to this, nothing to remove. The voice remains present, not to hold attention, just to maintain a constant reference, allowing everything else to soften further. By now, there is no need to keep track of what has already been said. Nothing here depends on remembering details. Nothing is building toward an outcome. The processes being described do not move forward in a straight line. They repeat. They continue. The brain remains active in the background. Memory continues adjusting in small, gradual ways. Sleep continues unfolding at its own pace. None of this requires attention. If awareness has already faded, the process continues without interruption. If it drifts back briefly, it can soften again just as easily. There is no advantage in listening closely from this point on. No new information is coming. Nothing important is about to change. The same ideas will return gently, not to add meaning, but to maintain rhythm. Memory is still present, not as something to focus on, just as quiet background activity. The brain continues doing what it does naturally during rest. There is no need to assist it. Breathing continues without instruction. The body remains supported. The environment is unchanged. There are no signals to respond to, no tasks waiting to be completed. This is often where awareness becomes less defined. Words may still be heard, but they no longer need to be interpreted. They can pass through without forming clear thoughts. The sound of the voice does not require understanding. Its steadiness is enough. If sleep arrives now, nothing is missed. The processes being described do not depend on sequence. They are not moving toward a conclusion. If awareness lingers for a while longer, that is fine too. There is no correct timing. Some nights, rest arrives quickly. Other nights, it settles in layers. Both are normal. The body does not need instruction. The mind does not need reassurance. Consistency is enough. From here on, the information density remains low. The content does not expand. the rhythm stays even. There is nothing to prepare for. You do not need to follow this any further. The background activity continues on its own. And in that steadiness, there is space for sleep to settle quietly, without effort and without needing to be noticed at all. Over longer periods of time, memory continues to change in quiet ways. Not all at once, not in moments that can be pointed to, but gradually, through small adjustments that accumulate. Some details remain clear for a while, others soften without being noticed. This is not a loss. It is part of how balance is maintained. Memory does not hold everything equally. It does not need to. What remains available is shaped by repetition, by relevance, and by time itself. As days pass and nights repeat, these slow shifts continue. Nothing dramatic happens from one night to the next. There is no reset. The process unfolds across longer spans, weeks, months, often without awareness. From a scientific perspective, this kind of gradual change is common in complex systems. When adjustments happen slowly, stability is preserved. There is no disruption, no need for correction. Memory follows this same pattern. It adapts without urgency. It updates without effort. This is why memory can feel different depending on when it is noticed. At times, details feel close. At other times, they feel distant. The underlying process remains the same. It continues quietly, whether or not it is being observed. In this way, memory and time are closely linked. Neither moves in sharp steps, neither announces change. They progress through continuity. As the night continues, there is no need to think about the past or the future. Memory does not need review. Time does not need to be measured. The present moment does not require a clarity. Awareness can remain loose, open, unfocused. The brain continues adjusting in the background, guided by rhythms that do not hurry. Sleep provides the space for this to happen, not because something specific must be achieved, but because reduced demand allows gradual processes to continue without interruption. Nothing here needs to be completed. There is no point to reach. The changes described do not belong to this moment alone. They extend beyond it. They move through the night and into the next day without asking for attention. The voice remains steady, the tone unchanged. Time continues passing in its own way, and memory continues moving with it, quietly, without effort, and without needing to be noticed. Nothing in this process has changed. The brain continues at the same pace. Memory remains active in the background. Sleep unfolds without interruption. There is no shift in direction, no increase in demand, no moment that requires attention. The same patterns are still present. They do not become stronger or weaker all at once. They remain steady. Repetition creates stability, and stability allows rest to continue without effort. The environment remains quiet. The body stays supported. Breathing continues without instruction. There is nothing to hold in place. If thoughts appear, they do not need to be examined. They can pass without being followed. If awareness drifts away, it does not need to return. The voice remains consistent. Its role does not change. There is no new information to process, nothing to remember. The content does not move forward. It simply stays. This is often where listening becomes effortless. Words may still be heard, but they no longer need to form meaning. They can remain as sound. Pauses may feel longer. Time may feel less defined. That is expected. Nothing important is happening. and nothing needs to happen. The same quiet rhythm continues. Memory remains in motion. Sleep remains present. The brain does not need supervision. Everything that matters is already in place. The repetition is enough. The rhythm continues. Nothing shifts, nothing resolves. The same steady patterns remain in place. The brain continues quietly in the background. Memory remains in motion. Sleep unfolds without interruption. There is no signal marking the passage of time, no clear boundary between moments. The voice stays present, but it does not ask to be followed. Words arrive, then fade. Sentences do not need to be completed. The space between them is enough. Breathing continues on its own. There is no need to notice it. The body remains supported. Nothing needs to be held. Nothing needs to be adjusted. If sleep has already arrived, the sound continues without needing to be heard. If awareness returns briefly, it can soften again just as easily. Nothing here depends on attention. The processes being described do not change when they are not observed. They do not slow down. They do not hurry. They continue at the same pace they always have. There is no conclusion waiting, no final thought to reach. The night does not move toward an ending. It simply continues. Repetition remains gentle. The tone remains even. There is no reason to stay awake for what comes next. The words are no longer carrying information. They are only carrying rhythm. That rhythm does not need to be understood. It can exist quietly in the background, like distant motion, like slow cycles that do not announce themselves. Nothing more is required. The night continues. The motion continues. And the quiet remains.